Καλημέρα σας. Καλημέρα σε εσάς που είσαστε σήμερα εδώ, σε αυτό τον όμορφο χώρο, στον Φάρο, στο Κέντρο Πολιτισμού Ίδρυβα Σταύρος Νιάρχος. Και καλημέρα και σε εσάς που μας παρακολουθείτε μέσα από το live streaming του marieclaire.gr και από το πρωτοθέμα.gr. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Θα ήθελα να σας καλωσορίσω στο 4ο Marie Claire Power Trip, αυτό το μοναδικό στο είδος του συνέδριο που συγκεντρώνει επιδραστικούς ηγέτες από κάθε κοινότητα για να εμπνεύσουν, να δημιουργήσουν και να συνεργαστούν. Όταν ξεκινήσαμε το Marie Claire Power Trip πριν από 4 χρόνια, θέλαμε απλώς να είμαστε έστω μία μικρή συνεισφορά στον δημόσιο διάλογο για την ισότητα και τη γυναικεία ηγεσία. Στη συνέχεια όμως είδαμε ότι θα θέλαμε να το ανοίξουμε και σε άλλα θέματα, γιατί μας απασχολούν και άλλα θέματα. Όπως μας απασχολεί το περιβάλλον, η κλιματική αλλαγή, η μόδα με ένα διαφορετικό τρόπο, το από πού προέρχονται τα ρούχα μας, αν έχουν παραχθεί με βιώσιμες συνθήκες και αξιοπρεπείς συνθήκες εργασίας. Επίσης, μας έχουν απασχολήσει τελευταία διάφορες καινούριες λέξεις, όπως είναι το Metaverse, τα NFTs, τα κρυπτονομίσματα, το Web3. Σίγουρα οι περισσότεροι χρειαζόμαστε λεξικό για να κατανοήσουμε τους βασικούς όρους, αλλά σας υπόσχομαι ότι μετά από τη σημερινή συζήτηση με ειδικούς που έχουμε καλέσει, θα έχετε πολύ λιγότερες απορίες. Μας απασχολούν επίσης το ποιο πρέπει να είναι το μοντέλο ηγεσίας σε περιόδους αλλαγής, όπως αυτή που βιώνουμε, και ότι θα πρέπει να περιλαμβάνει περισσότερους, να κάνει ανθρώπους από όλες τις κοινότητες να εκπροσωπούνται, να είναι ορατοί. Χρειαζόμαστε μια ηγεσία πιο συμπεριληπτική και που να φτάνει μέχρι και τα διοικητικά συμβούλια. Επίσης, θα θέλαμε να μιλήσουμε για τις γυναίκες ηγέτιδες στη δημόσια σφαίρα και τις φοβερές επιθέσεις πολλές φορές που υφίστανται και τα στερεότυπα που δυστυχώς συνεχίζουν να επιβιώνουν και είναι πολύ καλά ριζωμένα στην κοινωνία. Αλλά και το νέο πρόσωπο της βιομηχανίας της ομορφιάς, που σιγά σιγά αλλάζει και αυτό και είναι πολύ κοντά στην κοινωνία, με διάφορους τρόπους, στηρίζοντας γυναίκες να ξεκινήσουν τις δικές τους επιχειρήσεις, κάνοντας mentoring, προσφέροντας πάρα πολύ μεγάλη οικονομική, ηθική και συμβουλευτική υποστήριξη. Επίσης, ένα μεγάλο θέμα της εποχής μας, η ισότητα στην έρευνα και στην επιστήμη. Εκείνο σίγουρα που διαπιστώσαμε αυτά τα χρόνια, τα 4 χρόνια που κάνουμε το Power Trip, είναι ότι το Marie Claire έχει φωνή. Έχει μία πολύ δυνατή φωνή, η οποία φτάνει ως εσάς. Μία δυνατή φωνή που διαδραμάτισε ένα πολύ σημαντικό ρόλο στο ξεκίνημα του ελληνικού μυτού. Και μία φωνή που στηρίζει τα δικαιώματα των γυναικών εδώ και σχεδόν 70 χρόνια. Φέτος, τη φωνή τους μαζί μας ενώνουν πάρα πολύ χαρισματικοί ομιλητές, ειδικοί στον τομέα τους, οι οποίοι έχουν ταξιδέψει ειδικά για το συνέδριό μας από τις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, από τη Γαλλία, τη Βρετανία, την Ολλανδία, την Ελβετία, την Ιταλία. Συγγνώμη αν ξεχνώ, νομίζω δεν έχω ξεχάσει καμία χώρα. Και πάρα πολύ σημαντικοί και σημαντικές γυναίκες και άνδρες από την Ελλάδα. Ανάμεσά τους, ανάμεσα στους διεθνείς μας καλεσμένους, είναι ένα πάρα πολύ γνωστό σε εσάς πρόσωπο, μια γυναίκα με την οποία σχεδόν μεγαλώσαμε μαζί, καθώς και εκείνη μεγάλωνε μπροστά στα φώτα της δημοσιότητας. Είναι η Brooke Shields, την οποία θα έχετε την ευκαιρία να δείτε από κοντά εσείς και να ακούσετε ζωντανά αργότερα, μέσα στη μέρα. Αλλά και μια γυναίκα που είναι πρωτοπόρος στο χώρο, εκπροσωπώντας τη βιομηχανία της ομορφιάς και του modeling, η οποία με μεγάλη αυταπάρνηση και πιστεύοντας πάρα πολύ σε αυτό που κάνει και με μεγάλη αφοσίωση δίνει το παράδειγμα και γίνεται μια αγωνίστρια για το περιβάλλον, την Arizona Muse. Θα ήθελα, πριν περάσω λοιπόν στο πρώτο μας πάνελ, να ευχαριστήσω και τις εταιρείες οι οποίες στηρίζουν και φέτος το συνέδριό μας και οι οποίες με έναν τρόπο στηρίζουν και τις ίδιες αξίες, προσπαθώντας είτε μέσα από μοντέλα βιώσιμης ανάπτυξης, είτε εφαρμόζοντας πρακτικές ίσης αμοιβής και συμπερίληψης, να αφήσουν το κοινωνικό τους αποτύπωμα. Είναι η L'Oréal Ελλάς, ο Παπαστράτος, η ΔΕΗ, η Βίκυ Καγιά, ο Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, η Porsche, η Κεραστάζ, η VC, τα κοσμήματα Cassis, η Google, οι τσάντες Καλίστα και η Delta Airlines. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Και τώρα, χωρίς άλλη καθυστέρηση, θα ήθελα να καλέσω στο πάνελ δύο σημαντικές γυναίκες από το χώρο του modeling. Η μία εκπροσωπεί την Ελλάδα και η άλλη τη Βρετανία. Είναι η Arizona Muse, supermodel, αλλά και μαχήτρια του περιβάλλοντος, ιδρύτρια της οργάνωσης DIRT για την αναγέννηση του εδάφους, και η κυρία Βίκυ Καγιά, μοντέλο, παρουσιάστρια, επιχειρηματίας και αγαπημένη μας μέσα από όλα αυτά που κάνει. Παρακαλώ πολύ, ελάτε για να κάνουμε αυτή την πολύ ενδιαφέρουσα συζήτηση.
Hello. You do know how to say yasu by now, right?
Yes, a little bit.
I welcome you both and thank you for being here, joining Marie Claire Power Trip. So I leave the stage to you,
really? Oh,
ladies,
okay.
Wonderful.
to talk about this very interesting...
We are starting the Power Trip. That's very interesting. Okay, where do we sit? Εδώ καθόμαστε. Okay. How is your Greek?
My Greek? My last name is Greek. Thank you very much.
Really? Is it?
Yes, Muse, right?
Musa.
Musa.
Yeah. You're a muse in many ways, I think.
And it's my dad's real last name. I didn't make it up.
Yeah, that's wonderful because, you know, being a muse is something really, really precious and priceless in life. And it's wonderful to see how you do it with your children, with dirt, with fashion, and with your husband who's sitting right there. He's so proud of you.
Oh.
And it's so wonderful to have you in Greece because as forward we are in many, many ways. There's a lot of young people and a lot of people in fashion that do not really understand what really sustainability is all about. So let me put my glasses on because, yeah. They say after 40 it happens. I never believe it, but it does happen. I can't see. I can't.
Well, nor did I understand. I mean, that's where my activism started, is that I realized I didn't know enough about clothes, food, beauty products, everything, the commodities industries, and I just started to learn.
Isn't it very fair, though, to admit to yourself that what moved you is not knowing enough?
Yeah.
And now that you do know enough...
And I continue learning every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would change from the beginning, like something you would do differently?
So many things.
Yeah.
So many things. I think when you go down this route of the sustainability journey, let's call it, you realize that everything can change, and you look back at your life and your experiences, or this has been my experience, and I think of everything and think how, it could have been different. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to do that in this way that caused a lot of fear culture, or that caused a lot of harm to the environment, or that made people feel less than their best self. I see this all the time now in life, where we live in a society that often isn't valuing strongly enough right relationship, feeling good, strong communication that actually builds people up instead of tries to tear them down in maybe subtle, niggling ways that you don't really feel until retrospect kicks in and you're like, I didn't feel good in that meeting. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I just felt anxious and didn't know why I didn't feel good. You know, I think these very subtle bits of societal ways of being are contributing to the greater environmental breakdown, ecosystem breakdown, climate catastrophe that we are in right now because of our way of interacting with each other and our way of interacting with nature.
That's absolutely true. And what really, really matters is that to educate your children from a very young age, and you're a mom, a wonderful mom, to start thinking how to give back, how to help the society, even turning off the light, or you know,
and how to be kind.
Exactly, kindness is key.
And how not to be complacent. So yes, being kind at school is the most important thing, but it's equally as important to, when you see somebody else who's not being kind, to understand why with empathy. They're not being kind probably because they feel insecure.
Exactly.
And going there with your children about this, I think, is a really great thing that we can do as parents, and admitting along the way that I don't always get it right. And sometimes I feel insecure too. And, and that all of these things are normal, natural, and that you're not the only one who feels them. This is something that I try to talk about with my children.
Everyone makes mistakes, and it's okay to say you're sorry.
Constantly.
I totally agree. So let's go and see. How did your career in the fashion industry shape your deep concerns on the environmental crisis?
I've been so lucky to be a model for 12 years now, and I've been working at the core of the fashion industry with all those major brands that we've all heard of. I've been in their showrooms, I've been down their runways, I've been often in their campaigns, and in spite of operating in that ecosystem of the core of the industry, I knew very little, and the people around me also knew very little about clothes. Who made them? Where were they made? When did that happen? At what time of day did that person make them? Were they working all through the night to make those clothes? What are they made of? What is cotton really? How does it grow? What impacts is cotton having on the earth when it's grown conventionally, or when it's grown organically, or when it's grown biodynamically? And realizing that every single question I asked led to a long thread of a story. And what was interesting is that I realized every thread of every story began with soil. Everything we use in life is grown for us by farmers. Not just our food, not just the beautiful flowers that we see in front of us, not just the cotton in my shirt or the leather in my shoes, the wood that's on the floor that we walk on, the wooden in our windows, everything we use in life, the products we put on our skin, they're all grown for us by farmers, unless they're sourced from petrochemical-based materials, which are plastic, essentially. And we need to move away from those. We all unanimously agree now. It's time. It was time 45 years ago. We're kind of late, but we're getting there.
You're never late. All you have to do is make a decision, a wise decision to move away from that. And also this, the aspect of the fire is very scary too, because the wood, you know, the forest and the soil, as you very well describe it, how horrible with all these fires, and people don't even think.
It's so sad.
That they see a collection somewhere in the fashion, like Fashion Week, and it's all cotton or all silk, but it comes from a tree, it comes from earth, it comes from the ground. And it's really, really important to see that, because a lot of trend forecasting, people think it's a brilliant idea of someone, but it's not just that. It comes from nature and what nature has in store for you. Did they burn the cotton trees? You're not going to have cotton in the collections. Unfortunately, they do that, and so forth. So it's so wonderful to actually realize that earth, soil,
sustains us.
It's there for you and sustains it, Now, how did you connect with earth and educate yourself in sustainability and regenerative agriculture? And with all this misinformation right across the corner, because there is, where did you find the right sources to train?
When I realized that everything was grown in soil, my mom said to me, oh, if you want to learn more about soil, why don't you go and spend time on biodynamic farms? Because she knew about biodynamic farming. It's a type of regenerative agriculture that is, the organic sprung out of biodynamics. Biodynamics is older than organic, and organic is a simplified version of biodynamics. Biodynamics is truly regenerative. With biodynamic agriculture, you are building soil fertility, meaning you are breeding teeny tiny microorganisms in your compost pile, and you're spreading them on your soil every season, which means that the soil is actually becoming bigger. Topsoil is a layer of soil on the surface of the earth. It can be 16 inches deep, or it could be 1 inch deep, and when you're growing plants, you need as much of it as possible. So we need to increase the amount of topsoil we have, and topsoil is the rich, dark, usually aerated soil that you could dig in really easily. And if you're a plant, imagine you could put your roots down in it really easily, because it's not dense, it's not packed together. Conventional farming, which is using loads of chemicals all the time, many times a year, chemicals are sprayed on a conventional farm. And the chemicals are killing the microorganisms in the soil, which means that the soil becomes compacted. It becomes too dense for root systems to go through, and therefore water cannot go through it either, which means water runs off, which means we have erosion. And when we have a system like this, which is caused by chemical farming, when a fire comes over a farm like this, it burns and burns and burns, because there's no water moisture in the earth anymore. it can't be because of what I described about that dense, packed soil. There's no space for roots and water. When you have a biodynamic farm, and I have biodynamic farmer friends in California who are devastated by the fires.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Even here
and
in
so
Greece,
scary.
we're devastated by the fires.
It's awful. And I speak to these biodynamic farmers who are telling me the biodynamic farms are not burning in the same way that the conventional farms are. And that's because of the water absorption and retention in the soil, meaning that there's greenery and life above the soil all year round constantly. It doesn't go bone dry the way it does on the neighboring farms who are using chemicals and have compacted soil. So
were the farms you visited in Spain?
I visited farms everywhere in the world. I love farms.
You should visit ours here. We have a few.
I yesterday visited Apivita, which is one of your amazing Greek companies making skincare that is so pure and organic, and they grow bees, and I was having
special Greek herbs.
Yes, everything. I was having such an amazing conversation with them and saw where they have their headquarters and they process. It was brilliant.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes. So biodynamic farming is not just a nice way of growing some stuff. It's a climate solution. This is how we need to grow everything. We could grow tree plantations using biodynamics. We can even rewild ecosystems using biodynamics. We don't need to harvest a crop from a biodynamic farm or biodynamic regeneration center. This can be adopted by governments, by businesses, by charities, by schools.
It would be great educational for kids.
As a climate solution. It's truly amazing what happens when you regenerate soil using biodynamics.
Wow. What made you want to found Dirt? The exact thing you just said to me?
The farmers, getting to know farmers was just an unbelievable experience for me. I am very much an urban person now. Spent my career in the fashion industry, surrounded by urban people. And when I started to go onto these farms, and I would call and say, "Hi, I'm really interested in farming. Can I come and work with you? Can I come and volunteer?" And most of the time they're like, "Yeah, okay, sure, but you have to do stuff." And farmers are busy. So I recommend everyone try to go and volunteer on a farm, but be respectful. They might not want a volunteer. It's a lot of work for a farmer to have a volunteer. So be super grateful if you get the opportunity to go and work with a farmer. It's a transformational experience. These biodynamic farmers are so intelligent. The way they communicate is totally different. They're very still people. They really listen to what you say. And it takes them a moment to respond, to the point where you're like, "Did you hear me?" Me, city person, going, "Did you hear me? Should I say it again?" And they're like, And then when they do respond, the answer is coming from behind them, and it goes into you, and you're like, "Oh, wow, you really heard me. You heard the depth of the meaning of what I was
very spiritual.
asking,
They have to be.
You understand me to the core, and it's just an amazing experience to be with people like this who are so wise and observant of their surroundings.
Life-changing experience. I want to do that.
Isn't it? Please do it.
Yeah, I might actually try it in Greece.
Yeah, try it in Greece. I just learned from the people at Apivita, there's a biodynamic farm outside of Athens, somewhere on a hill, growing strawberries and other things too.
We have a few, so actually, you know what? I'm going to actually come and try it, and then I'm going to email you.
Let me know how it goes.
I would love that. So would you tell us more about the projects of Dirt and the purpose of Dirt and how it's
definitely
evolved so far?
I started Dirt because I fell in love with farming. It's my ambition to become a farmer one day, and it's the most noble career pursuit I think anyone could ever have. I started Dirt because I also noticed that farmers are in a pretty precarious and somewhat desperate position. Farmers work very hard all year round, all year. And this is true for conventional farmers, for biodynamic farmers, and for organic farmers in the middle. They work so hard. And they work all year long, and then they get paid only for the crop that they produce at the end of the year. And they don't even know if they will produce the crop because it's all weather dependent.
Exactly.
Imagine if there's flooding, like there often is, or fires, like there often is.
Or too much snow.
No crop, or too much snow. I mean, a variety of reasons. Then you get, if you're lucky, you get a harvest, and you can sell that, but you can't predict how much it's going to be worth because crops are a commodity. So there's a market value. So when you plant them the year or half a year before, you don't know what you're going to be able to sell them for. What an impossible situation that we put farmers through. And as I said in the beginning, they grow everything we need for us. Thank you, farmers, is what we need to be saying far more often in our lives. And we need to look at this economic structure that is surrounding them and that they are stuck in. So chemical farmers often don't want to be spraying chemicals. They see that there's a better way. They see that the chemicals are causing immense harm to themselves, their health, their children, the ecosystem around them, the biodiversity. There's also water runoff, so all the chemicals get into water, run into the neighboring river. The chemicals also run into the seas and the oceans. I just realized I'm speaking so fast for the translator. I'm so sorry. I'm going to slow down.
I love that about you, though. It's very, you know, there's a great pace about it. Yeah, there's
very
passion. Passion is a Greek word, pathos, and we like it.
That's nice. And farmers, even who are spraying chemicals, they're often doing it because they are stuck in an economic system. So they have debt. They have debt because they bought genetically modified seeds. They have debt because they buy chemicals. And they have debt because they buy heavy-duty and big machinery that is very expensive. That debt cycle means they have absolutely no flexibility on their margins, which means they cannot take a 2, 3, or 4 year period to transition into regenerative agriculture, where they will experience lower yields during the transition. This is very, very important to understand. We as a society need to get behind farmers and demand that farmers are supported by governments, by private sector, by their contracts between them and the people who buy their produce as well. That they need to be in a situation where they are receiving the right amount of support before they plant the crop, before they do all that work, so that they know that they have this financial stability that then will put them in a much better, healthier place for their mental health. And what I'm about to share now is really tragic. Farmers experience higher suicide rates in every country of the world than the national average. And this is because of that debt cycle, because they are in so much pressure financially, and they do so much work, and they're at risk of losing their land constantly. It's really a huge, huge universal tragedy that we're in right now in farming. Wow. So that's why I started DIRT. And you asked about the projects, thank you. DIRT operates in the most transparent way that we possibly can, because that's what I started out to do. I didn't really know much about the charity sector. I just knew I wanted to start this organization to support this type of regeneration in soil. The way we do this, we have projects all over the world. We're so proud to say we have about 15 to 20 projects who are regenerating soil using biodynamics. It's amazing what these people are doing. We have the projects listed on our website, but I'll tell you a few of them now. One of them is restoring mining scars in Uganda. So mining is where we get all the metal from. Mm-hmm. Metal is all over the fashion industry, it turns out. And of course, it's in our furniture, it's in our buildings, it's in our jewelry, it's really everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it all comes from soil, from the earth, and it's very destructive. When you mine metal out of soil, you cause a lot of damage, So we're working with a project in Uganda where there are local gold miners. They're called artisanal miners, but this is not artisanal like artisanal bread making is amazing. They're wonderful, artistic bread makers. When you're an artisanal miner, it actually means something totally different. It means you're digging a hole in your backyard, and there's no regulation, there's no safety equipment, and you are at immense risk of suffocation in the mine. And women and children go down these mines. Then they use mercury, a heavy metal, to process the gold ore themselves before they can sell the gold. And they might not even find any gold. It's a really horrible life situation. This isn't fun. They're not doing this because they love it. They're doing it because there are no other opportunities. Yeah. So we work with this project to transition communities in Uganda, in the east of Uganda, who are in a mining community because there's gold there, some gold. And we transition them to biodynamic farming, which means they can close the mine pits, and they can start having bees, and they can start rebuilding the biodiversity. They can plant things like grasses and bamboos at first because the soil is too toxic to grow food. So the grasses grow for at least 2 years to bring the toxins out of the soil, because there are many grasses that are really good at doing that. This project is incredible. These people need this support. They're so grateful for it. And it creates a whole new economic system for them that can bring them out of the life that they're in right now, which is toxic and harmful to themselves and the earth. This is one example of a project, and I give it because it's not what I was expecting from farming projects. But this is how widespread farming is. Farming really is everywhere.
Yeah, there's possibilities everywhere.
Everywhere.
But you need to work with the government, I think. Dirt needs to go hand in hand with government.
That's our next step.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
our next step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is to advise policymakers on how we can
Exactly.
include something like biodynamic farming into subsidies. Because right now, if you're doing this amazing type of farming, you can't apply for a subsidy for it. It doesn't exist. You can apply for certain subsidies that do exist that you might do, like tree planting is a common subsidy now in many countries. Farmers or anybody with land can apply for a subsidy to plant trees. So they might be applying for that and they may be benefiting from that subsidy, but wouldn't it be great if just because you were a certified biodynamic farmer, you were paid by the government for some of those ecosystem services that you're providing on a daily basis? Like that increased water retention on soil that we're talking about, that in turn reduces fire risks. Like, it's amazing what these people are doing.
Do you think the younger generation gets that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think they do.
Are they ready for it?
More and
so
more.
much fast information, fast social media. You know,
There's so many problems with screens
Yeah,
and social
it's
media.
just
So many.
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of the older generation does get it. And I'm really, my heart is warmed by seeing all the grandparents who are coming out. And I think Extinction Rebellion gave the grandparents a really wonderful opportunity to come out and say, I want to protect the earth for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and all the other generations. Because once you're of a certain age, it seems like I'm watching people, elderly people, becoming very engaged and passionate. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So I don't want us to leave out that demographic when we talk about the youth and the youth being activists and the youth moving and understanding things better. Of course, that does happen. There are some pretty amazing elderly people too who are getting really wild in what they're doing to support the earth.
I just think the younger generation, that's the future.
Yes.
And Dirt has this magical way of explaining things so easily to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's almost like it should be taught in schools. But did motherhood move you to explore that? Is it becoming a mother that made you want to look into it more and going back to Mama Earth since you became a mother? Yeah.
I became a mother very young. I had my first child when I was 20, so I definitely can't say that becoming a mother spurred my activism, because my activism came much later when I was in my late 20s. I think being a mother, definitely, I consider things, but also I have plenty of friends who don't have kids and may intend not to have children, and I think that it's equally as easy to feel engaged with Mother Earth as an individual adult as it is as a parent. Whatever moves you, honestly, whatever it is that makes you feel things. I've been thinking a lot recently about the threshold that each human has for climate. So some people's thresholds are quite low. They might hear one or two facts. They might get engaged by one conversation and think, oh, I want to change my life. I want to buy soap that isn't toxic for the microorganisms in water. I want to buy organic cotton jeans. I want to do all these things. Whereas some people may have many touch points and they have a high threshold before they want to change. So I'm really interested now in my activism career. Where are these thresholds? Why are they different for some people? And how can we lower everyone's threshold? Because in this case, you want to have a low threshold. You want to have a low tolerance for environmental degradation, because it doesn't work for everyone or for me. And so whatever it is that brings you in,
makes you happy,
that
lowers
your threshold, lowers the threshold around you, let's do that. Let's really make an effort to soften ourselves and the people around us. And things like this are contagious. They really are. If my threshold lowers, I'm sure that it has an effect on the people around me through the bioresonance and through our connection and whatever it is, but it happens.
And also really small groups of believing and being passionate about something just like Dirt, they are very contagious.
I hope so.
Yeah, I do have this belief, but how difficult is for people to switch to a sustainable lifestyle?
Depends how much money you have.
Oh, wait.
It does.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. But even the philosophy of it, having something that you like and you love and you get it right there and then, but you don't even think, is it sustainable? What's behind it? Where did it come from? You know, a lot of people don't have the time or don't take the, you know, the inside time to think or feel what's happening around them. So how do you make that switch? Is it like a moment that you decide? Is it how can I say?
It was.
Yeah, for you it was.
For me,
But
it was a
does it
moment.
also take time to study things and look into things and
It's easier than ever now.
make a research? about
Really
it? Yeah.
easy now. Type in the word sustainable to Google whenever you need a product. Whatever you're about to buy, just don't buy it by only Googling its name. Put sustainable table. Whatever you need. It's easy now to find them, and there's no excuse if you have the money. Absolutely none. There is an excuse if you don't have the money. If you don't have the money, don't feel guilty. Not your fault. You're living in an economic system that didn't bring you up. It's as easy as that. And we need a systems change around economics, because it's absolutely unacceptable that there are fellow humans on this earth who live in a world where they cannot afford to buy something.
Yeah, the basics.
To buy something that's good for the earth.
Yeah.
That is not fair. Because imagine, if I were in a position where I knew that there were some things that were better for the earth and some things that were causing a lot of harm, but I could not afford the ones that I knew were good, and I had to buy the ones that were bad, it's such an unjust situation to be in, and nobody deserves to be there. So we need to work on the systems change around that. And in the meantime, those of us who are so lucky to have money, we need to spend it with the good businesses who are doing the right products, who are giving the right services, who are working in a diverse, inclusive way. This is of the utmost importance.
Absolutely.
Responsibility.
Absolutely. Now, fashion. How many collections a year are there? 6 or 7 or?
So many.
Yeah, it's very
some
speedy.
do 4, some do 8. Hardly anyone does 2 anymore.
Yeah, so there is a really big impact on the earth. What do you think we need to do in this situation to reverse things, like to make it work better? Because not everyone, they do have the money, but not everyone thinks sustainability. Not everyone thinks the ecosystem, the soil. Where do we come from? Where to go back? They don't have the same sensitivity in this issue.
And because of that, we need governments to come in and make regulations. We just do.
Yeah.
We need the businesses in fashion who create product to have no other choice but to buy their raw materials from farmers who are growing things in a healthy way, and to buy their chemicals from chemicals for dyeing, for bleaching. For the fashion industry uses so many chemicals. Google that. YouTube is an amazing, amazing resource for making you want to change things. Google polluted rivers in Bangladesh. Like, whoa. You will find some video imagery that is so shocking to you of colorful rivers that don't look pretty, not like pretty rainbow colors, like brown and deep purple and foam everywhere, and just wildness that should never belong in nature. We need those things to be illegal. And we need them not just to be illegal in one country, but we need them to be illegal globally, universally, as a lift us up kind of law, not a make it hard for some people kind of law. But we need to do it.
Do you think they can find a common ground, though, the fashion industry, with all the governments?
Of course we can. We have to. We have to. And we have to do it now. Look at us. We're so innovative. We're so intelligent human beings. Let's use that. Brainiacs, we are. Let's use that and channel it into really sorting out this problem, really finding how can we universally agree on what is toxic. I mean, it's not even agree. It's like, can we just identify what should never, ever be used again and put in place those laws in a way that can be successfully implemented? Because it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing to implement it. And it's another thing after that to implement it in a way that doesn't cause more harm to some people, because there will be ramifications and there will be side effects and consequences of change. So we need to do that in the most cohesive way that really takes into account every single stakeholder, which is every person, every species, every river, every lake, every tree. We need to do it like that.
And we will.
Yes.
And because you are contagious and so passionate, and you are a Musa, a Muse. And you know, I do follow you on Instagram, and I watch everything that you do, your goals, your children, you know, your fashion background. But it's so different to sit next to you, and it's, you know, I want to do exactly what you say. I have a list of things I should be changing as of now, and I understood so clearly. What's the point? Amazing. So I mean, it's a wonderful spread message, and it's so easy. It's so easy to really understand when somebody tells you, as a human being that this is what you need to do. It's easy, it's not easy. Go down to the soil, go to the farmers, think differently. It's really a piece of cake. We have
power. We have power as individuals. We have power as governments. We have power as businesses. So I'm sure many of you sitting in the room right now are a part of a business or own a business. Think about how your business impacts soil, because it does. It really, really does. Even if it doesn't seem logical and you're kind of like, where does my business? Maybe you're a technology business. Well, plastic and metals, they've been mined. So all the devices that you use, there's where you touch soil.
They come from somewhere.
They come from soil. If you're a fashion brand, we just talked about how your clothes are grown in soil. So think about, it's a good exercise as a business, how do I impact soil, and how could I shift that to become a positive impact on soil?
Well, how about your personal goals and aspirations and professional goals, dreams?
Well, I have a lot of them.
I think I kind of figured that one out.
A lot of them, and they're so much fun.
She's a ray of light, isn't she?
All my goals
never stops,
are fun.
I love her.
I really think that my whole sustainability activism history and path has led me to believe we must enjoy ourselves. We must have fun. Sometimes sustainability can feel dense and intense and a bit like heavy and take ourselves too seriously kind of vibe, and let's let that go. It's better than, it's more fun than to live a sustainable life. It means your life is a higher quality. It means the things around you smell better and they're nicer to touch. You know they came from more intelligent people. Like, it's just so much better. So my goals in life are really now around going deeper into the social aspect of sustainability. Community, what is community building? How do we build community? What deep and profound impacts does that have on society, on materials, when we build community? So I'm looking a lot into eco-villages, learning about how people live when they choose to live in intentional communities. What does that look like? And I'm finding it so inspiring that obviously I want to go and live in one. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
I'm sure you will, though, soon.
I think it will happen.
I have a hunch that will happen very soon.
I think it will happen, and I think it will be amazing. Amazing, amazing. And then even just the learning about it has already begun to influence me strongly. How I think about and see my life and the cities I live in, who do lack in community. Cities are surprisingly, because they're all the people together. So you'd kind of think, oh, that's a community. It's not. Community is about relationships. It's about accountability to each other. It's about how can I show up in a really meaningful, honest way. Truth. Being honest with myself, being honest with people around me, being reliable to myself and people around me. It's super interesting and very psychological, very philosophical, like really is taking me on a kind of exciting brain journey.
It's a bit rare, though, too.
Super rare.
It's a good jumpstart for people to start thinking like that, because, you know, when we cultivate relationships, it's almost like cultivating everything in the soil. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like coming from the same place. I don't know what to say. You're like the most passionate young woman, captivating, contagious. Your smile, you know, your whole body sings when you talk about the things that you love.
Thank you.
And
you're a very good interviewer.
Really?
Interviewing is so hard. I have done it before. I'm really bad at interviewing. It's like a piece of work. Obviously, a lot of the preparation ahead of time, but the vibe. Like, you've made this so much fun for me.
You didn't need any help, really. I mean, you must be one of the most inspirational women I've ever met, young women. And please carry on doing that, because passion is not something that you buy from somewhere. It comes from within, and it's a fire that comes from within. When you find calling, which you have, my God, your husband, your kids, your community, they must be the luckiest people alive. Thank you so much for coming to Greece.
My husband is pretty amazing. He's sitting right there. You can see how amazing he is.
Yeah, I can see it. And enlightening us, because we're a bit backwards like that. And thank you so much for making it so human and easy. It's just a decision. It's just the click away. And then it happens. Thank you so much, Arizona. You're going to be our eternal muse here.
Oh.
Yeah. Please come back anytime.
Thank you so much.
That's it?
That was so much fun.
Yay.
We're in like 5 minutes.
So great.